name is Sunita, and I will be your host for this evening. I am the verbal head at GMAT Wiz, and I have been in this prep industry for now almost a decade. What has driven me? I guess lots of educators say this, but honestly, guys, what has driven me all along is when I see my students benefiting from my methodologies, the way I teach or the logic that I teach, and that is something that drives me on. Um, so with my experience, I have been able to design this course at GMAT Wiz, and I'm going to show you certain glimpses of the course today to show you how this could benefit you in your preparation, guys. All right, so just hold on to that thought. Um, in the meantime, just let me just draw your attention, guys, to the link that is given on the sticky notes. All right, I'll just post that as well. In case you haven't registered for this series, you can register on this link so that you get updates about our sessions on time. All right, there's that link. Hi, Sudhanshu. Nice to see you again. So with all that out of the way, let me ask you guys a very simple question, okay? I'm sure a lot of you have heard of words like verbs and verb-like words. So what is it about verbs which make it a verb? Like, what is the difference between a verb and a verb-like word? Like, if I ask you this question, what differentiates a verb from a word which looks like a verb but is not a verb? Let me hear your answers. It's a very simple question. No rules, no regulations to I'm not asking you to quote any rules and regulations here, guys. I just want you to use very common, simple sense, because common sense or logic, as we call it, is one of the most important things that you will need to solve SC questions on GMAT SC. Rajdeep is saying verb is an action indicating word. Rajdeep, that's a good enough definition, but it's a very it's a definition which doesn't differentiate a verb-like word from a verb. All right, let's say, I'm sure you have come across words which end in ed, right? So how would you know that worked is a verb and worked is not a verb, or work is a verb and worked is not a verb, or working is not a verb and worked is a verb? All right, let's see. Gustavo has Sudhanshu says verb denotes action and time of action. Very good, Sudhanshu. Gustavo says verb is used by the subject and the verbal gives additional information. That is true, Gustavo. But the issue is how to understand that this is a verb and this is not a verb. So Nishtha, hello. Yes, verbs definitely, they indicate actions, but the difficulty is the action itself may not indicate that it's a verb. I'll come back to that. So Julia says with every verb a noun should come. So Julia, a noun is necessary with a verb if we are looking at making a clause. All right, now from a very basic point of view, let me explain this, guys. I'm going to do a little bit of basics, guys, so just hold on to that. This understanding is important, very, very important for you to understand the rest of the webinar, guys. All right, it simplifies your entire concept about tenses. So just hold on to that. Even if I'm going to be a little treat you like children right now, all right, I'm going to just show you how you can differentiate a verb and a verb-like word. Sharanga says verb-like is word doing a different function. Yes, Sharanga, a verb-like word is definitely a modifier. But again, as I said, the issue is how do I recognize? Okay, so here goes. I just want you to hold on to thank you for your responses. First of all, it's lovely to see people responding back when you're taking a webinar. Otherwise, it's like, you're talking to a wall. So here goes. Let's say if you have a word like teach and then you have another word like teaching, okay? Superficially, both look like actions, don't they? They could be doing words, or they could be modifiers, they could be verbs, right? However, that is not the case. Let's look at the following sentences using the two words. Very simple. I'm going to use very, very simple sentences. Teachers teach in the school, teachers teaching in the school, all right? And although if you look at both the sentences, there is the same subject, okay? Only in the first sentence do we actually get to know something. Proper communication is made. We get to know what the teachers do, and they teach every day. That's what we get to know. So how do we know they teach every day? We know this because the word teach by itself tells us the time of the action, teach every day. So we know that teach is a verb. It cannot be anything else. It denotes not only an action, it also denotes the time of the action. It denotes a complete meaning in that sense about the action. All right. But in the second case, we do not know the time of the verb like word teaching, right? I mean, if somebody's telling you teachers teaching in the school, you look blankly at that person's face and wonder, what is this person trying to tell me, right? I mean, it could be is teaching, was teaching, will be teaching, were teaching, have been teaching. All right, the word teaching itself doesn't really communicate proper information. So without those aiding verbs or helping verbs, the word teaching is devoid of time and tense, all right? And therefore, it is not a verb. Okay, this is the logic behind why the word teaching is not a verb and teach is a verb. So in a nutshell, it is the time factor or tenses which are an integral part of the word that we understand it to be a verb. You know, a verb must denote a time frame, that is when it is done. So this is, as Rajdeep said, that verb is a word which denotes a time frame. Very well put, actually. That is the differentiating factor between a verb and a verb-like word, apart from the function. Okay. So the word teaching, if you add helping verbs to it to denote the time, it becomes a verb. Otherwise, it's not a verb. All right. So today we are going to understand how the time frame works for these verbs. All right, guys. Okay. So just pay attention, pay very close attention. Let me quickly see if I have any questions from you. Hello, Pallav. So Pallav says, okay, verb teaching is a verbing modifier. Yes, Pallav. In that sentence, it's not even a modifier properly. Okay. I mean, it's not even a sentence because you don't have the time frame. Good. Great. Now I'm going to help you understand tenses with the help of a timeline. All right, guys. So just hold on to that thought. I'm going to go a little slow right now. We will get to the stage where we are going to solve questions. But before that, we'll understand a few concepts. That's the purpose of today's webinar, guys, to decode the timeline, understand the timeline so that when you are solving questions on your own, you don't have to think about any rules and regulations. You just have to think about the logical application of the timeline. Okay. I'll say. So here goes. Okay. Now we all know that there are 3 time frames. Okay. We all know this. Of course, there are a lot of debates. Some people believe there are only 2 time frames. There is no future tense because it hasn't come yet. Therefore, future tense is nothing else but the extension of present. Anyways, we're not going to go into all that. So we have 3 time frames, the now, the yesterday, and the tomorrow. Let me put it that way. Okay. So let's look at the following line. Okay. Let's say that the following line represents time. This line represents time. And then there are these dots which are plotted on the line. Now, I want you to tell me which dot belongs to which time frame. Okay. So here are the choices. And I'm going to bring up the poll for you to choose one of them, whichever you think is correct. So just give me a moment. Okay. Read the question carefully and tell me which dot belongs to which time frame. So you have the answer choices given there in front of you. No rules, no regulations, guys. Just think, just use your common sense. Seriously, that's the thing that's going to help you out for understanding verb tenses. Okay, so I'm waiting for your answers. Okay, so far I've got, so I'm going to give you 10 seconds, guys. And I'm also going to count the 10 right away. So here goes 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. And I mean, if you pay close attention, this timeline concept you can use to solve all your tense problems, guys. So just pay attention, just be a little patient. Okay, Sharanga says A. All right, I'll keep that in mind, Sharanga. So I'm going to end the poll, guys, now. I can still see some movement on the poll, I guess. So it's really between 2 options, and let's see. Okay, you'll be surprised, guys. So I'm going to end the poll now. So there's almost 39, almost 40% of you believe A is correct, and 50% of you believe D is correct. We have a very small percentage of people going for B and C, 3 and 7% respectively. Hi, John. Okay, John has also marked C. So let's see which of these choices is correct. Okay. Now the timeline, if you notice, has two arrows at the end, which means it extends up to infinity, right? Correct. Now, a lot of you have marked A, which means you believe that A and B, dots A and B are the past. C, which is kind of so far the middle dot here in terms of the 5 dots, is the present, and D and E are the future, which means which come after present. Now, my question, guys, is on what basis have you taken C as the middle? I mean, C as the present. The dots themselves don't tell you which one is the present, right? Okay, let me explain this better. Now, can anyone tell me, those of you who've chosen none of the above, can you tell me why you've chosen none of the above, guys? Because it's really between A and B. I mean, it's almost a 50-50 division there. And those of you who marked B and C, just hold on to your thoughts. I'm sure each of you must have thought something and marked those answers, right? So my question is, to those of you who marked A and B, who marked A as the correct choice, why did you take C as present? Vineet says, A is incorrect because there is no point of reference. Wonderful, Vineet. That's a very good way of putting it. Sarah, wonderful. Any of the dots could be present. Yes. It's an infinite timeline, guys. There's no starting and end of time. So therefore, there cannot be a middle. If there is no start and no end, there cannot be a defined middle. The middle would keep changing, right? Very good, Sudhanshu, Sarah, Vineet, Puran, Sahil, point of reference, Ramakrishna, hello. Pranjal, very good, because we don't know where we are on the timeline. Wonderful, Rajdeep. Thank you so much. So Nitish, Mayank, Pallav, very good. Pallav says because the context is not set. Very, very, very good. So let's see. For those of you who did not understand this, let me be a little more clear here. Okay. And once you understand this, you can draw your timeline for every question, guys. Okay. So here goes. What is the reference point here? Now, the reference is always now, guys. Now means right now. Even if a second has passed, the second has become past tense. Okay. So the now keeps changing. The present keeps changing. Okay. It's contextual. It's relative, as all of you have put. So if you see, something is past with reference to now. Similarly, something is past perfect with reference to now. So whether it's past perfect, whether it's past, whether it's future, everything will be with reference to now. So I'm going to explain that. Okay. If the present is C, let's say if I tell you guys C is the present, then all the dots preceding C would be past. All the dots would be succeeding C would be future. However, the dots don't tell you whether C is the present or not. And therefore, if I tell you that C is a present, then only choice A will be correct. All right. But if I tell you B is present, then only the dot A is past and C, D, E become the future. All right. So you see, if the reference point changes, your dots would change their time frame. So if this is the case, then choice B would be the correct answer. But we don't know whether B is the present or not. Similarly, if E is the present, then all the dots would become the past. And in that case, C would be the correct answer. All right. However, here, since I have not given you any reference point, there is no reference point. Therefore, none of the choices are correct. Yes, guys, is this clear? So a lot of you understood that, and I have made it even more clearer. Every time you want to understand your time frame in a sentence, let's say you have 2 actions, 3 actions, 4 actions. I'm going to explain how to dot the past perfect tenses because those are the most troublesome areas. So just hold on to that thought. We are going to delve into the perfect tenses very, very shortly. All right, guys? Wonderful. So with that understanding of the timeline, let's quickly look at the rest now. Okay. If the author is referring to something which was over in the past, he will use a simple past tense. Over in the past means it's got nothing to do with the present. All right. And usually in GMAT cases, you are given the specific time marker. So if you look at this line here, okay, if 2018 is past with reference to, okay, this is now 2021. Sorry, guys, my bad. All right. If this is now, then 2000, whatever happened in 2018 is past. And the author is not connecting that event which took place in 2018 with the now. Therefore, we use simple past for this. Okay. Understand what is happening here. If there is no connection between this and this event, then we use the simple past. Similarly, if the author wants to refer to something that is happening now, happening as in currently going on, this is how the author is going to say. The business is going through a rough patch in 2020. That means probably from the beginning of 2020 sometime till now, whatever it is, or 2021 as the case maybe. Okay. So that is the present progressive. If you want to show a continuity of action, if you want to talk about something that will take place after now, that is not taking place right now, all right, then we are going to talk about this. So if this is now and this is the future. All right, if the author is referring to something that is always true or always in the same tense, then they're going to use simple tense, simple present tense, that is, okay? If something is true for all the tenses. So the next question that arises is, why do we need perfect tenses, guys? Okay, now there are various answers to this, why we need perfect tenses, but the simplest thing is to understand the timeline and understand this on the basis of the timeline. Okay, how? We have a lot more things to cover, so I'm going to be a little quick about this, but I want to be not so quick that you won't understand. In GMAT, as we discussed last week, GMAT grammar or GMAT SE is meaning-driven grammar, okay? It's meaning-driven grammar, and perfect tenses are required to clarify the meaning, guys. Let's understand when and why. Till now, we have learned that we can use past, present, and future tenses to denote the timing of the action. Hence, if event 1 is in the past, event 2 is in the present, and event 3 is in the future, this is how we are going to represent them on the timeline. All right. Sorry. What if there are two events in the past, say event 1 and event 4 in the past, and these two happened in a sequence, not at the same time, but in a sequence? That is, one happened after the other. What should we do then? How do we know which one of the two events happened first? Okay. So for that clarity, for that meaning clarity, we use the perfect tenses. Okay. The perfect tenses are used to denote the timing of the earlier of the two actions in the same time frame. So if both the actions happened in the past, we would use, let me just go back, guys. If both the events happened in the past and we need to know which one happened first, we are going to use the past perfect. And if we are talking about the present and future, the same logic will apply. So let's understand how. Okay. Let's assume there are two events in the past time frame. All right. You have event 1 and event 2. Okay. Event 1 happened before event 2. So how do we denote which past event happened first? By looking at the sentence. Can we do that? We can't, right? Sorry, guys. It's going a little fast. So what we need to do is we need to denote that the earlier event that happened was event 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the past perfect for the earlier event, and we are going to use the simple past for the later event. Simple, isn't it? See, so you can do this for yourselves when you're solving questions, guys. First, focus on the meaning of the sentence as discussed in the last webinar, and we're going to do this today also. Find out which one of the past events happened first, okay? Then denote it with the past perfect and denote the later event in the simple past. That means if we use perfect tenses for an action, it implies that the action would be happening before the action denoted by the simple tenses. Okay. So similar thing you can look for the future tenses, the future perfect. If we have two events in the future, all right, both in the future, then the earlier event would be in the future perfect and the later event would be in the simple future. All right. So we will discuss the usage of present perfect in a moment, guys. All right. So for now, what we need to understand about present perfect and simple for perfect tenses, we are going to understand that. Okay, because language has evolved, there are more usages to the present perfect. Okay, but in a nutshell, we can imagine the timeline as this. Okay, can you understand this? Etch it in your mind, guys. You can draw it if you want, you can copy it if you want, you can take a screenshot if you want. All right, so this is, if you understand this and if you've got a sentence, you can place your actions in along these dots and see how and when the actions happen, and accordingly you can use your tenses. All right, now I'm going to discuss the past perfect tenses first with you. Then I'm going to discuss the present perfect, because these are the two areas which cause the most confusion. All right. Are you ready, guys? Let me see. Are you all ready? Kelsey, you want me to go back to any slide? Hi, Kelsey. So this is the timeline. Okay. Imagine that I'm kind of looking at the timeline in 3 zones. Okay. So present is the reference zone. All right. And then you have the past, which is before the present, and future, which is after the present. Okay. In the past, if you have 2 actions, see which one will be past perfect, which one will be simple perfect. Future, see how it will work out. And the present perfect, I'm going to explain. So just hold on to that. Wonderful. So here goes. Everybody's ready for it, I can see. I just hope I don't get carried away with my, jabber. Okay. We're going to understand past perfect tenses. All right. And I'm going to make you understand this without like kind of throwing rules at you. Okay. I'm not going to do that. So let's see. Why is the past perfect tense needed? Follow closely, guys. Okay. So let's look at the following 2 past events. Okay. Let's say you have event 1 and event 2. All right. In order to clarify the sequence of these 2 events, we need the past perfect, right? So here are 2 sentences, guys. All right. Tell me which of these 2 sentences is correct and why. All right. You can answer me in the chat boxes, guys. Or in fact, I think I'll bring up a poll for you. Give me a moment. Hi, Alex. So let me bring the poll for you. So I'm just kind of bringing up a poll which has a no, this is a wrong poll to use. Okay, you can answer me in the chat box, so that'll be faster, guys. So these are 2 sentences. It is possible both are correct. It is possible one of them is correct. It is possible both are incorrect. Okay, so let me bring up the poll. You guys look at it for a moment and let me bring up a poll. Give me a moment while I set the polls. So here is the question. You take your time. You don't have to answer me in the chat boxes. Okay. So here is both correct. Both incorrect. Then let me add to it. One is correct and then 2 is correct. So you can put it in the poll, and I can kind of see. All right, there's the poll for you guys. So you can answer me there, and I'll also take in the answers that you have put in the chat boxes. So let me see. Okay. So Sarah says 2 is correct. I guess, Sarah, you meant 2 is correct, right? David says neither is correct. Naseem says 1 is correct. Flybus says both. So Flybus, are both correct or both incorrect? You can answer me in the poll. I think that will be clearer. Pranjal says neither. So I guess neither is correct. Flybus says again both. So both means correct or incorrect, Flybus? Ramakrishna, both are correct or incorrect? Alex, both. Kelsey, Umang says neither. So I'm going to take that. Neither is correct. Hi, Joanna. Joanna says 2. Nitish says first is incorrect, second is correct. Pooja says 2. Okay, wonderful. I've got the poll. So, that's interesting. Let me share the poll results with you guys. Okay, here goes. So 30% of you believe both the statements are correct. 30%. Well, let me tell you, both the statements are definitely not correct. Hi, Shudipta. So 30% of you believe both are correct, by the way. Now the 33% of you believe both are incorrect. Okay. 8% of you believe 1 is correct and 2 is incorrect. 27% of you believe 2 is correct and 1 is incorrect. Okay, so that's like a kind of fair division. So John says it should be have researched. John, why have? We'll come back to that. So Rajdeep says, if I researched 5 minutes back, both stands correct. So Rajdeep, that's the confusion. How do I know I've researched 5 minutes back? Okay. The whole issue is, how do I relate the two actions in the sentence? Okay. And I've used a very simple sentence to explain the concept, guys. Hi, Soumya. Soumya says 2 is correct. So hi, thank you, Flybus. So Flybus says first is incorrect and second is correct. All right, guys. So I can see that all of you are like kind of now really struggling with yourselves to see which one is correct. Okay, let me put it in context for you. Pallav has actually an interesting take, Pallav. The problem with both sentences is that it is difficult to understand. Yes, Pallav, but not for both sentences. I'll tell you what. So remember one thing, guys, GMAT places a lot of emphasis on context. Okay. You have to be clever. You have to be smart. You have to be alert to notice the context, guys. Notice the context. Okay. For example, if I say I studied in a school, okay, that was built during the World War, do I have to tell when I studied and when the school was built? I can't have studied in the school if the school had not been built. So I can actually just, the context would tell me that, the school was built first and I studied next. So pay attention to the context, guys. Hello, Aditya. So I'm going to discuss that in detail now. Pay attention, guys. Okay. So here goes. The two sentences talk about two events, right? One event is researched and the other is went bankrupt. All right. Both took place in the past. Now, here's what you can do when you're confused, guys. Ask yourself some questions. In GMAT Whiz, we teach you to ask questions to arrive at the meaning of the sentence. And that really helps a lot. You will see how it will help you here. Okay. So, although it's a very simple example, it can be replicated in more difficult situations. Ask yourself, did the two events take place at the same time? Okay, if they took place at the same time, then you don't have any issue. But clearly here, the two things could not have taken place absolutely at the same time, right? Nothing there in the sentence to convey that. So if they did not take place at the same time, then which one took place first? This is a very important question, guys. Does the context tell me the sequence? Just by reading the context, okay, can I tell the sequence? That's an important question. If not, if I cannot tell the sequence based on the context, then how do I clarify the sequence? How do I clarify? So these are some questions which you can ask. You can take a screenshot of this. I'll share the session PDF with you at the end of the session. So you'll have this with you and you can use it. But the point is, ask yourself these questions and then you'll get the answers. If you don't ask questions, you won't get the answers and you won't be clear about the intended meaning. So let's see. In the first sentence, the research could have taken place either before or after the company went bankrupt, right, guys? I could have researched the company before 2020. I could have researched the company 2010. I could have researched the company after it went bankrupt. All right. So because this is not cleared by the context, we need to use the past perfect to set the sequence and communicate a clear meaning. So there are two correct versions that are possible. If I researched the company before it went bankrupt, then I have to use the past perfect for the earlier event. I had researched about a company. Okay. So this would become your event one, had researched, and went bankrupt would be your simple past. That is the second event. On the other hand, if you want to convey that you researched about the company after it had gone bankrupt, then you'll use the past perfect with the earlier event. So this is event one here, and this is event two. But in this sentence, this becomes my event two and this becomes my event 1. All right. On the other hand, if you look at sentence 2, I researched, the research could not have taken place before the incorporation of the company, right? Can you research a company without it being incorporated? Can you? You can't. So, therefore, the context here is clearing the ambiguity, and therefore, sentence 2 is correct. You don't need the past perfect. In fact, if you use the past perfect where there is no need, then it is considered incorrect, guys. If you use the past perfect, okay, then where it is not needed, it is considered incorrect. Do you understand that? Is this clear, guys? So John, Vineet, yes, John, research is not possible before incorporation. Absolutely. Wonderful. So Alan, I hope you can see why both are not correct. Only the second statement is correct as it is. Statement 1 is not correct. All right. Aditya, I hope you can see why it is not correct, statement 1. Because statement 1, there is an ambiguity. There could be two different meanings to it. The moment you have ambiguity in GMAT SC, it's incorrect. It's totally incorrect. Remember that. All right. Yes, any queries, guys? I hope this was an interesting eye-opener for all of you. I hope you like this. Simple, isn't it? Okay, Shudipta, I'll explain the second one. See, the second sentence says, I researched about a company that was incorporated in 2001. So researched is also simple past, and was incorporated is also simple past. Now here you might wonder, don't I need to use a past perfect? Well, simple logic is, can you research about something which does not exist? All right, you can't, right? So you need to indicate here, you don't need to indicate here what happened first. It's obvious that the incorporation of the company must have taken place first, and then only you researched about it. All right, guys. Thank you, Rajdeep. Rajdeep likes this. So Rajdeep, it is these kind of simple instances that we use in GMAT Viz to make things clear to you, you know, so that you can replicate it in a more lengthy, more complicated situation. In fact, the next thing that I'm going to bring up is just that only. Okay, so Vineet is saying something. I researched about a company in 1995 that went bankrupt in. So Vineet, that is a very different situation. You are giving two time markers for the two events, and therefore it is correct. We never use past perfect if a specific time marker is already given. So if you say, I had researched about a company in 1995, it would be incorrect. So the sentence that you are quoting is perfectly all right, Vineet. Yes, Kelsey, sentence 2 is already emphasizing on the meaning. The context is telling you which event took place first. And in this case, if you use I had researched for sentence 2, GMAT will take it as incorrect. No, Mayank, we don't need had been incorporated. A time frame is already given, 2001. With a time marker, we never use past perfect, because then otherwise the time marker is useless, na? So that is another thing that we will teach you, that when the specific time marker is given, we never use the past perfect. Is that clear, Mayank? Okay, great. So with that understanding, okay, I'm going to bring forward a full-length question that focuses on the application of this meaning-based understanding, okay? Yes, ready, all of you? I think all of you. So I guess 27% of you said 2 is correct, and you were correct. What is more important is, were you correct for the correct reasons? So great. So yes, Mayank, if the time marker is given, we always use simple past. We never use the past perfect. Okay, so let me bring up the question. Here is the question. Go ahead. Put your new learning to test here. I'm going to mute myself, give you some time, and bring up the polls. All right. Go by the meaning, guys. Those of you who were with me in the last same correctly. So guys, those of you who have not put in your polls, please put in while I answer Chaima's question. Chaima is asking, what's the difference between have been and had been? Okay, Chaima, here goes. Have is always associated in one way or the other with the present. Okay, so have been is used when we use present perfect. Similarly, had is always associated with the past. So we use had been, okay, when we are talking about the past perfect. So present is always going to use has or have. Past is always going to use had, was, were, things like that. All right. Aditya, there is a loophole there. There is a loophole there. So I'm going to just end the polls, guys. Most of you have got this right. And I hope I'll ask you a question later. Okay. So 17% of you believe A is correct. 60% of you believe B is correct. 8% of you believe C is correct. 4% believe D is correct. And 8% again believe E is correct. Now I'll ask you guys a question. Those of you, I mean, all of you, of course, did this little bit of explanation before the question help you guys? You're welcome, Shaima. So I'm going to reset the poll. Okay. Tell me, did the explanation of the timeline and the past perfect tense help you solve this question? Did it? Yes, it did. And that's wonderful. That's beautiful to see that you guys putting your knowledge to application, you know. As I told you earlier, that's something that really makes me, puts a big, big smile on my face. I'm actually smiling broadly right now. All right. So, great. That was very nice. And I hope throughout the session, we learned things that you can use. So let me quickly analyze this. Now, again, for those of you who've joined me today, pay attention to how I read the sentence, you know, how I break the sentence. Yes, Rajdeep, the question has a loophole. So I'm going to come to that. All right, pay attention to how I'm reading the sentence, because that's the clue. That's the key to solving the question correctly and in the required time frame. We don't want to extend the time. So here goes. The first step that we teach at GMAT Quiz is you understand the intended meaning, as discussed in the last webinar. You know, this will save you a lot of time and pain later on. Okay. So here goes. Some buildings, and I tell myself, okay, we're talking about at least one building that were destroyed and heavily damaged. Now, so clearly here, this that is a relative pronoun because it's giving me additional information about what? About these buildings. That's very obvious. That were destroyed. So these buildings were completely destroyed and heavily damaged. Now, I'm a little worried here. If the buildings were destroyed, then how can they be heavily damaged at the same time? I mean, if something is destroyed, it is understood it's kind of beyond just damaged. So this and is a wrong connector to use. It gives a very, how shall I put it this way, very distorted meaning. I mean, can something be destroyed and damaged at the same time? I mean, I would say either it's damaged but not destroyed, or it's destroyed but not just damaged. So the and should be ideally replaced by or. Either some buildings were totally destroyed or some were just damaged. So that's one error clearly here. Some buildings, now I was able to notice this error because I am breaking and reading. I'm emphasizing on each and every word. And this is something that GMAT Whiz students learn from day one. Okay, all our solutions are written like this so that you train yourself to read like this. You don't miss a single word. Okay, there it goes. So there is definitely A is incorrect. So here, this is a additional information, this whole thing, relative pronoun clause. And I'm still looking for the verb for some buildings. In the earthquake last year. Now, again here, in the earthquake last year is a prepositional phrase. Okay. And it is telling me about the time of this destruction and the time of this damage, right? When this destruction took place, when this damage took place, it was last year. So last year is a specific time marker. Therefore, were destroyed and damaged are perfectly in sync with this time marker. Okay, I know it happened last year. Fine. I still don't have a verb for some buildings. I just have a modifier, a long modifier for some buildings. Okay. So some buildings, and these buildings were destroyed and heavily damaged in the earthquake last year. So what about these buildings? Were constructed. Okay, so were constructed. So these buildings were constructed. Okay, buildings is the subject, it is plural. Were constructed is the verb. It is also in the plural. So subject verb agree in number. Subject and verb agree in logic as well. Buildings can be constructed. Okay, so buildings were constructed in violation of the city's code. Now, my question here is, of course, I need to know when were the buildings constructed. So this is simple past, right? And the destruction also took place in the simple past. And I need to know which one happened first. Now, a lot of you would ask me, would tell me that, ma'am, something cannot be destroyed if it is not constructed, right? Something cannot be destroyed if it is not constructed. Only if the buildings were constructed could they have been destroyed and damaged. So you would tell me, ma'am, the context is telling us very clearly which one happened first. Now, there is a small niggling doubt at the back of my mind even then, what if the word constructed is actually talking about the reconstruction, but the author has not used the word reconstructed. Let's say last year the buildings were destroyed, and maybe this year some other buildings were constructed in that place. So reconstruction is when we are constructing the same building over there. But if you're constructing new buildings, we won't say reconstructed, right? We would just say some buildings were constructed in violation of the buildings code. So there is that niggling doubt. Okay, it is possible that we are talking about reconstruction of the buildings. It is possible we are talking about some new construction. All that ambiguity will not work. It should be very clear to me what happened when. So I'm thinking to myself, most likely, given the sentence that buildings were constructed in violation, it means probably this happened earlier. This must have been event 1, and these would be event 2, most likely, I'm thinking. Why? Because we are saying in violation of city's building code, and maybe that is why they were easily destroyed or damaged or something. So I'm telling myself the intended meaning that I'm looking for in my correct answer choice would be some buildings were either destroyed or heavily damaged in the earthquake last year. Earlier, that is probably before last year, when these buildings were constructed, they were constructed in violation of the city's building code. So that's the meaning I've got. If I have an answer choice which uses had been constructed, I'm going to be very happy, and I'm going to look at it, I'm going to consider it. If it's not there, then okay, as long as that destroyed or damaged is corrected, it would be good to go. All right, guys. So is this clear, guys? Yes, Pallav, there are 2 possibilities. Thank you. So Rajdeep, the error would matter only if you have an option which considers that error. All right. So guys, are you all clear? Let me just put up the poll to ask you. Are you clear with this explanation? Again, let me repeat. If there is no choice which gives me that had been, I'm okay. And I'm telling you how we are going to solve this. All right. So there's this small doubt that I would love to have a clearer picture of what happened. Okay. But if there is no answer choice suggesting that, I'm okay with that also. So I keep a very open mind with my intended meaning. Great. Everybody's understood that. Let me quickly go to the answer choices. So A is incorrect. As I said, I should have or here. Okay. Ideally, if this improves, ideally I'm saying there is still an open mind on this. Let me go to B. Some buildings that were destroyed or heavily damaged. So this is corrected. In the earthquake last year, so heavily destroyed, damaged in last year, this is fine. Had been constructed. Now this clearly tells me that this was my event 1 and this was my event 2. So I would keep this on hold. I would keep B on hold. I would say, okay, so far things look good. A is definitely out. At least if I compare with A, B looks good. So let me hold this. 60% of you mark B, guys. Okay. Let's go to C. Some of you did mark C as well, C, D, and E. So let's see where you might have gone wrong. And all of you, even if you got this question correct, do follow my reasoning for C, D, and E, because you need to know whether you got it, you rejected it for the right reason. Okay, every question that you practice should tell you whether you are following the right path, not that you get the question right or get it wrong. Getting a question incorrect or correct is not the parameter of your success eventually. Your learning, that is. Oh, here we are saying some buildings that were destroyed and heavily damaged. So this is out. See, with a small error, if you had focused and read this sentence, if you had broken and read this sentence, if you had focused on each and every word, if you had followed the GMAT Viz methodology, you would have eliminated C just because of that. You wouldn't even have had to look at have been. So have been is present perfect. Although we haven't discussed this, guys, this sentence has got nothing to do with the present, right? Therefore, there is no sense in using the present perfect here. So this is definitely out. Okay. D, the construction is changing totally, and we've got to be extra careful here. Last year, okay, so this is what we call a time marker. Okay. What happened last year? The earthquake destroyed or heavily damaged some buildings. All right. So here the earthquake is the focus. That have been, again, the meaning changes a bit, that have been constructed. So we are basically saying that last year the earthquake destroyed the buildings. Okay, last year the earthquake destroyed or heavily damaged some buildings that have been constructed. Now, when have they been constructed in violation of code? I mean, have been constructed means the construction is over and the buildings are still there. And so what is the purpose of us using this present perfect? Because the sentence is entirely in the past tense. So D is also out. E, last year, some of the buildings, so some of the buildings is my subject, that were destroyed or heavily damaged in the earthquake. So last year, some of the buildings, now this last year, some of the buildings had been. So that were destroyed or heavily damaged is not what happened last year. Last year, some of the buildings had been constructed. You're saying last year, then you're saying had been constructed. We know that using the past perfect when you're given the time marker is incorrect. So this sentence is also incorrect. Remember, that were destroyed or heavily damaged is your modifier here. Your main sentence is last year, some of the buildings had been constructed. So when were they destroyed then? Okay. So the sentence is also incorrect. Yes, guys, all clear? Let me see. Okay, let me see. There is a query from... Okay. Does have been present perfect tense means an action began in the past and is... So, Pallab, we are going to discuss that right away, okay? It can have two meanings. It started in the past, is still continuing. Okay, present perfect. Started in the past, it was finished in the past, but the effect is still continuing. So, both. Modifier, Vinod, is simply, in simple language, we call it an adjective, adverb. You know, any segment which gives you additional information about the subject or additional information about the verb is a modifier. For example, if I say the car I bought is red. Okay, so I bought the car that I bought is red. That I bought is red is giving me information about the car. All right, any piece of additional information is a modifier. So Pranjal E is incorrect because you're using past perfect had been with last year. If I'm already saying last year, why do I need to denote had been? Had been is going to be used only if the time sequence is not clear. All right, Pranjal? Okay, Ying, hello. Ying is asking if I put last year after earthquake, is E correct? Let me see. Some of the buildings that were destroyed or heavily damaged in the earthquake last year had been, yes, Ying, that would be correct. Perfect. You're welcome, Vinod, Pranjal, both of you. Great. So now that we've seen the whole thing in action, okay, I'm going to very, very quickly tell you a little bit about the GMAT Viz course related to sentence correction. Okay, you have seen how important it is to read the sentence correctly. Some of you might have got the question wrong that we just did because you did not read it in the right manner. Okay, and learning to read the sentence in the right manner is the first step towards scoring well in verbal. You will need this skill in CR. You will need same skill in your RC also. Okay, For example, at GMAT Viz, we teach you how to contextualize. We teach you where to break. If you see this slide, it is a slide from one of our video lessons. Okay, we tell you where to break. See these points, these checkpoints. We tell you stop at a checkpoint. We define the checkpoints. Then we ask you, we teach you how to ask the questions. Remember how I ask you, ask yourself, is the sequence clear? Is the sequence not clear? We ask you to ask the role. Is it a verb? Is it a verb-like word? Is it giving me additional information? Is it giving me main information? How is it related, meaning wise? So when I was reading the sentence, destroyed and damaged, I kind of asked myself, okay, it's giving me information about the same buildings. So how could the same buildings be destroyed and damaged? Okay, so I contextualized. All right, and the entire course is kind of discussed in the same manner. We teach you how to contextualize, where to break, how to read, how to ask the questions, how to relate back. Similarly, say for example, one of the places where we ask you to break is break at a connector. Okay, and ask yourself what it is connecting, how it is related to the connected entity, and that would give you the meaning of the sentence. Okay, for example, that, is it a connector or a relative pronoun? It's a relative pronoun. So if it is a relative pronoun, it is giving me additional information about a noun. Had it been a connector, okay, in that case it would have given me another clause, another piece of full information. All right, so for example, here you can see studies have shown that. Now here, that is a connector. It is telling me what the studies have shown. Okay, what the studies have shown. Anyway, so at GMAT Viz, we teach you right from the beginning how to start breaking your sentences and reading. Every solution is laid out in the same manner. So you don't just learn the approach, you master the approach, because you go through the solutions. Every time you go through the solutions, you learn the same thing. You see the same pattern. Okay, guys? All right, I think I've said enough about GMAT Viz, but then GMAT Viz is seriously an exceptional course. So option B, we used last year's Soumya in a different way. Okay, I'll show you. I'll just go back quickly to option B. Sorry for the delay, Soumya. If we go to option B, okay, last year here is denote. This last year is placed for these two verbs. It's not placed at the beginning. So we are not connecting it to had been. We are connecting it to this here. See? Okay. Some buildings had been constructed. But there you are saying last year some buildings had been constructed. All right. And that makes it incorrect. So let me quickly bring in the next question. As I've already explained to you, we teach you how to read the sentences and understand the sentences correctly. Here's another question, and this is an in-house question. Okay. So I want to start counting now, guys. Thank you so much, Maria. I'm loving the class too, and I haven't realized we spent almost an hour. So next we're going to start up with the perfect tenses. And let me see the polls. I'm so happy with the polls. Almost very happy, except that there's very little confusion related to the answer choices. And I'm so glad. I hope this is because you got more clarity about the tenses. Thank you, Kelsey. Thank you so much. Kelsey has found so much clarity. Wonderful. That was the aim, and I'm so happy you guys liked it. Okay, so I'm going to start my countdown. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I hope all of y'all have put in your polls. Yeah, great. It's still moving, so I think I'll still need to wait. Okay, let me end the poll. So a small percentage of you have gone for A, 7%, 2% for B, 10% with C, 48% of you with D, and 30% with E. Okay, so Kelsey has joined us from Atlanta, and that this would be early, I think very early morning, I guess. Oh, that's so nice, Kelsey. Thank you so much. So guys, let's see how this sentence goes. Now, I'm going to go a little deeper to show you the methodology that you would be looking at the GMAT Wiz platform. You can definitely register for the trial version. I'm going to share the link with you at the end of the webinar, along with the PDF of this session. So here goes. Just hold on to your questions, guys, while I'm discussing. Once I'm through with this, I'm sure all of your queries will be answered. So just give me a little bit of time. All right, here goes. More than 130,000 Arabs. Okay, so I'm going to read this first part. I'm going to break it and read it. So more than so many Arabs had immigrated. Now, the moment I read this had immigrated, I file it away in my mind and I say, okay, had immigrated means this is supposed to be event 1 as against an event 2. So I need to look out for that event 2. Either I should have an event 2 to justify the usage of this event 1, or the context should tell me the sequence and this had immigrated would not be needed. So that's going on in my mind at the same time. So more than so many Arabs had immigrated to the US. Okay, they had immigrated where? To the US as part of the Great Migration. So this as part of the Great Migration is giving me some additional information about the verb had immigrated. Similarly, to the United States is also giving me additional information about the verb had immigrated. All right, great. So right now I know that more than so many Arabs had immigrated to the US as a part of a particular, let's say, event or something. Great Migration is given in capital letters, so it must be some particular event in history. There's a comma and, which indicates this is another clause that we're joining here. And the subject would be the same, more than 130,000 Arabs. And lived and worked. So lived and worked here is simple past. This means this is event 2, right? All right. Lived and worked across the breadth of United States. So across the breadth is giving me more information about the verb lived and worked. So for now, I have the subject Arabs, and this is verb 1. And I'm going to club lived and worked as verb 2. Okay. So before I proceed, before I get lost in the rest of the sentence, I'm going to ask myself, okay, I have event 1 and event 2. Are they correct? Ask yourself, are they correct? Well, you have to immigrate first and then only you can live and work across a country, right? So the context tells me that I don't need this had. All right. The use of the past perfect had immigrated is incorrect. Why? Arabs could not have lived and worked both in the simple past in the US even before they immigrated, right? So the context sets the sequence, and using the past perfect to indicate the sequence here is incorrect. This is per GMAT rules. This is very important, guys. You might wonder, okay, so what? Even if the context is telling me I can use it, no, you can't. If the context is telling you, you cannot use it. So this part of the sentence has an error. There was no need to use the past perfect. Now I still need to complete. There is a comma here. So the next part is, the nutshell of my sentence is Arabs immigrated and lived and worked. Okay, I'll write it down here so that it's clearer. Arabs, okay, something, 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 immigrated is event 1, okay, and lived and worked, and then I have a comma. Fighting its many wars. Now we know that a clause plus comma, now this is not related to tenses, but I'm just clarifying it here. That's the way we teach. A clause plus comma plus ing, this comma plus ing modifies the verb in the clause, which means fighting is modifying the verbs lived and worked. Okay. All right. So who was fighting? It refers to here the US. So these Arabs immigrated to the US these Arabs, after immigrating, lived and worked in the US, and while living and working in the US, they fought many of the wars of the US. Okay, fighting its many wars. So the verbal fighting is modifying the verbs lived and worked. And engaged. Now, fighting and engaged here seem to be in the same breath, no commas here. That means fighting and engaged are both supposed to modify the verb lived and worked. They are both supposed to be modifiers, right? However, we know that ed verbals cannot modify verbs. They are only noun modifiers. So engaged ideally should here be engaging to make fighting its many wars and engaging in the transformative debates. All right. So I have Arabs immigrated and lived and worked, comma, fighting its many wars and engaging in the transformative debates that took place. So that is how I would analyze my sentence. So right away, I have two errors. One, had is not required. Second, engaged is incorrect. It should be engaging. All right. So I hope that's clear, guys, to all of you. Let me just quickly ask a question here. Yes, guys, is this clear to you, this explanation? The process of breaking, reading, asking questions, contextualizing, ask what you're reading, understand the meaning. So very often we just read the language. We don't ask questions. Okay. Let me just reset the poll because I think I've asked too many questions. Yes, guys, is it clear to you, this analysis? Okay. All right. I don't see any questions coming up there. Fine. Great. So with that understanding, by now I think everybody's understood what the correct answer should be. So intended meaning was more than so many Arabs immigrated to the US as part of the Great Migration, as part of a general event. They lived and worked throughout the US. While they lived and worked in the US, they also fought the wars for US and they engaged in the transformative debates. All right. So A is incorrect as discussed already. Okay. Let me go to B. Arabs immigrated to the US. So the had immigrated thing has been corrected here. But then had lived and worked. Now had lived and worked becomes event 1. And this becomes event 2 then. So therefore B is incorrect, guys. They cannot have lived and worked across the US even before they immigrated to the US, right? The had lived and worked implies that they lived and worked in the US before. All right. So for those of you who've missed the first part of the webinar, you may not understand this, but what we're trying to say here is two things happened: immigration, living and working. So which one happened first? Obviously immigration, but the sentence had lived and worked implies the lived and worked happened before immigration. That's wrong. Moreover, see the displacement of as part of Great Migration. So fighting its many wars as part of Great Migration. This is a distortion here, clear distortion here. Okay. And therefore, this choice is incorrect. It's incorrectly placed. Remember, when you're reading a sentence, the few things that you need to look out for: addition to the original sentence, subtraction from the original sentence, replacement in the original sentence, displacement. This is a displacement. Okay. So engaging has been corrected, but as part of the Great Migration is incorrect, and therefore B is also incorrect. So for the small percentage of you who've marked B, I hope you've understood why it's not correct. Let's go to C. Arabs immigrated and lived and worked, perfect, across the breadth of the United States as part of the Great. Now here, if you notice, in the original sentence, they immigrated as part of the Great Migration. Here, they lived and worked as part of the Great Migration, guys. Therefore, C is total distortion of meaning. Okay, so although the tenses are fine, the sentence is still incorrect as it is. It implies that living and working was a part of the Great Migration. No, it was the immigration which was a part of the Great Migration. Let's move to the next choice. Arabs had immigrated to the US. Again, we have had immigrated, which is not required, and lived and worked across the breadth of fighting its many wars and engaging. This is Absolutely perfect, but D is incorrect because had immigrated is not required. So a good majority of you marked D. I think you forgot to notice that. E is the correct answer. So we use immigrated, which is event one, as is clear by the context. First they immigrated, then they lived and worked, therefore no past perfect required. And everything else is in its place. Fighting and engaging is also parallel, and therefore it's correct. Let me see if I have any questions here. Okay. Rajdeep, is the fighting and engaged clear to you? Okay, Rajdeep wants that explanation. So Rajdeep, the point is and engaged could either be a verb or it could be a noun modifier. ED verbals, again, we don't have that much time to explain the process here. ED words can either be verbs or they can be modifiers for nouns. Okay. Now here, along with fighting, we need another modifier for the same verb lived and worked, because if you see, there are no commas in between and to segregate it as a verb. So clearly, comma, fighting and engaging should be parallel. While they lived and worked in the US, they were fighting in the wars and they were engaging in debates. All right. Now, if I keep engaged, if I keep the word engaged, it seems engaged is modifying some noun, which it is not. All right. Moreover, it is not even acting as a verb. What is the subject of engaged? Because the subject has been segregated by the use of the verbal fighting. So Rajdeep, is that clear to you? Yes, Vinod, had immigrated is wrong because immigration had to have happened before living and working. So using had was unnecessary. Absolutely right. Rajdeep, are you clear with this? Okay, wonderful. All right, guys. So now that we have discussed the past perfect tense and we've understood it, Anish says immigration happened before this. So what is wrong with using had? Well, Anish, the point is very simple. GMAT SC does not like anything which is unnecessary. You know, you might call it redundancy. So if it is already very clear from the context what happened first, then that had is redundant. All right. Puran, this was a GMAT whiz question. If you go back, this is a GMAT whiz question. In fact, this is a question which I have made, like all the other questions on the GMAT whiz platform. So I hope you like the question and I hope it has given you a certain learning. Anish, it's not better than D. E is not better than D. E is correct. D is incorrect because D has that redundant had. All right. Yes, Rajdeep. We can conclude that if the sentence itself indicates a sequence, we don't need to use the past perfect. We should use the simple past. Absolutely. That has been seen as an error in so many of the GMAT OG official questions. Okay. So now that we are done with the understanding of the past perfect, let's now move to the most, another very, let me put it, how shall I put it? Another very confusing area, the present perfect tense. Okay. So the present perfect tense, now when we talk about the present perfect tenses, okay, the question again arises, why do we need to use the present perfect tense? All right. Till now, we have learned that that the perfect tenses are used to denote events that have happened before the simple tense event in the same timeline. So what about the present perfect tense? Is it right to say that present perfect tense is used to denote events that have happened before simple present tense ones? But isn't something that is done before the present always considered as the past? I think this is one question which keeps arising. Does that mean present perfect tense denotes past events? Okay, so this is where present perfect tenses become very interesting, guys. Present perfect tenses are used to communicate some sort of recency. Okay, and again, recency is relative. 5 minutes can also be recent, 50 minutes can be recent, 5 hours can also be recent, and 5 years can also be recent. So recency is a relative thing. All right, understand that. However, present perfect is used to kind of denote recency. It is used to communicate events that might have happened in the past, but they continue in the present, or their effect might still be present in the present timeline. So how do we place it in the timeline? Okay, remember the timeline that we discussed at the beginning? Present perfect lies right close to the boundary of the past and the present timeline, and denotes that the action or the effect has some recency to it. So to put it in context, the present perfect event is over, okay, but it has some effect in the present. Either it's over and has an effect, or it occurred, okay, it occurred in the past and continues. So either which way, okay, it is connected to the present. That is the issue about present perfect. You will notice whenever we use present perfect, one part of it is like, for example, we say have. Sorry guys, I'm so sorry for this PPT thing. Say for example, when we are saying have eaten, okay, or if I say have worked, okay. Now notice this is the past element, no? This is the ed verbal denotes the past element, and this denotes the present element, which itself should tell you that present perfect is used as a bridge between the past and the present timeline. Clear, guys? Does this make sense to you? Is comma plus and wrong construction in GMAT? No, Pallav. Comma plus and is used to join two independent clauses. It's perfectly correct. Yes, this is clear. Okay, let me ask with the help of a poll. Because see, this is the first step towards understanding present perfect. Great, I can see a yes from everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, cool, let's move forward. So now that we have understood this, let's also understand some very simple things about present perfect. Let's first understand how present perfect works for events that can continue in the present. Okay. So started in the past, continuing in the present as well. Let's look at some example. Stephanie and Marie have been good friends since 2015. So it means they became friends in 2015, and since then they have been good friends. They are still good friends. So became, it started in 2015 and it is still present. It still continues their friendship. Okay. My bad. Let me just remove the lines. Similarly, the police department has received 5 similar homicide cases within last 10 days. Within last 10 days includes, if today is the 10th day, within last 10 days includes like till the yesterday or till half of today, kind of. All right. So has received is present perfect. Why? Something started before the 10 days and it continues till this moment. Stephanie has worked as a maths teacher for 6 months. So working as a maths teacher started 6 months ago and still continues. So this is where we use the present perfect tense to indicate things, events that started in the past but are continuing into the present. Clear, guys, so far? Are you clear with this? Sorry for asking you every time, but the moment you lose thread, you will lose the whole thing, which is why I just want to get it clear. So John, I would say yes, since and within are keywords for the perfect tenses. All right, they are. But be careful. Always look for the meaning. In fact, I have a question coming up, so we'll discuss that there also. Kaushambi, you wanted examples. Are these examples enough? I think you were asking for these examples only. Kaushambi, I hope these examples are good enough. All right. So as you can see in each of these examples, something started in the past, but that thing or that event is still present. It's continuing even now. Clear? Great. So let me move to the next slide and okay. Now, timeline starting in the past and continuing still in the present. So let T be now this is a very interesting thing here. Okay, because there is a minor difference here. If T is the time at present, since last 5 years denotes a timeline T, okay, till 5 years now. Within last 10 days means it includes the 10 days. Okay. 6 months includes this month as well. All right. So an event with a timeline starting in the past and continuing till present, we use present perfect tense. Phrases such as since X, within X, for X, this is what John, you were saying. They tell us that the X denotes time till present. All right. So if I say since last 5 years, the last 5 years includes the present. Within last 10 days, it includes this 10th day. 6 months includes now. Okay. So that was about events that took place in the past and still continuing. Now we have to talk about events which finished in the past. Okay. So present perfect is also used to denote an event that happened in the past. It is over, but the effect of that is still present in the timeline. If I say I have had my dinner, you go to somebody's house, they ask you, okay, have you had your dinner? Now, if you say I have had my dinner, what does it mean? It conveys that even though I had my dinner, I'm feeling full at present, isn't it? You don't you say, no, thank you, I have eaten my dinner, I have had my dinner. So the second had is actually for the verb eaten. It's not the helping verb. I have eaten my dinner. All right. So have eaten means I finished the dinner before I came to your house, but my stomach is full at present. Alex has started his job at Google. Conveys that Alex has started his job at Google recently, and the whole issue is still fresh. It's not very long since he started his job. So we say has started. The other thing is in GMAT SC, if no past time frame is given, it is always that we should use the present perfect. Okay, so effect is still felt in the present. I have finished baking the cake for the party means essentially the cake has not been cut yet. I have finished baking it, it's ready for the party. Okay, so action of baking has been complete, its effect is still there, the cake is still there. Okay, it's still there, you haven't cut it. So that is how we use the present perfect to denote an action which is over, but the effect is felt at present. Is this clear, guys? Is this clear? Now, I'm going to discuss another very important aspect, okay? A very common confusion is when we should use present perfect tense and when we should use simple past. All right? So let's discuss that now. That's the next step, and I'll show you. Okay? Let us look at one common error, that is using present perfect tense with specific time markers. Now, look at this. Present perfect tense is kind of simple past tense is a specified time, right? When we say simple past tense, it is a specific time. But the present perfect is not telling you exactly which point of time at present. It's just telling you it's related to the present, right? Let's look at an example. Michael saw The Prestige, a Christopher Nolan classic, twice last year. Okay, now this is fine. Okay, compare this with this sentence. Michael has seen The Prestige, a Christopher Nolan classic, twice. Now here we are using saw, which is simple past tense, because we are quoting when it happened in the past. So you have a specific time marker. Let's call it specific time marker, and we are using the past perfect, simple past. Okay, so if a time marker is given, we use the simple past. But see how the time marker is absent here, and therefore we are using the present perfect. So we don't use the present perfect if there is a time marker given. This I can show you better here. Okay, so both sentences are correct. So if a specific past time marker is given, never use the present perfect. All right, use the present perfect only if no past time marker is given. Is this clear, guys? Take a look at it. Take a long, hard look at it. I'm going to bring up the poll and ask you if you are clear with this. Then we're going to move forward. Wonderful. I think we are going really well. Okay, now let's see how this will change. Michael's, so that was the correct choice. Now look at the incorrect choices here. Okay. Michael saw the Prestige twice. All right. Simple past tense without specific time is considered incorrect, guys. If you're using simple past tense without time, it's incorrect. If you're using present perfect with time, okay, it's incorrect. All right. So you should use simple past only when a specific time frame is given. You should not use a simple past if there is no specific time given. Now, why is using present perfect tense with last year considered incorrect? Why? Why can I not use it? Last year talks about 365 days before today. Okay, today, the 21st of February is not included in 365 days when we say last year. But, okay, so this is how. The last year is over yesterday, sometime yesterday before midnight. Okay, so you cannot use the present perfect tense because it does not include now. But if I say in the last year, then the in tells you today is included in those 365 days. All right. Today is included in the 365 days and therefore it is correct. Therefore, present perfect tense can be used. So that small in makes a difference. Michael has seen the Prestige twice last year, incorrect. But if you remove the last year and put in the last year, it becomes perfectly all right. Let's look at an official question here. A part of an official question. The 19-year-old pianist and composer performed his most recent work all over Europe last year. So with last year, we use only simple present tense. Okay. But had it been in the last year, then this sentence would have had to change. We would have had to write, the 19-year-old pianist and composer has performed his most recent work all over blah, blah, blah in the last year. Okay. Here is a question for you. It's actually a simple question, guys. This is just to train you to use your knowledge, the knowledge that you have just acquired. But do I have any questions? Okay, let me just, I think I have a question. So let me go back. One moment. Uno momento. So Siddharth is asking something. What if we use Michael has seen the Prestige twice in the last year? It's correct. That's what I have shown you here, right? So that I think you asked this question before the slide. So that answers it. Wonderful, guys. So are you all ready for the question that is coming up? Let me ask you, reset the poll and ask you. Hold on. Simple question I'm going to put. Yes, ready? It's so nice to see such a responsive class, guys, and I hope a lot of you have been able to clear or demystify your doubts related to the past perfect tenses and to the present perfect tenses. Okay, let me bring up the question and mute myself. Here is the question. All right, guys, I'm going to end the polls if you haven't put in your answers. And Rajdeep has got a wonderful question there. Okay, I'm going to answer your question, Rajdeep. Give me a moment. I wish I could see you guys, you know. But anyways. So here goes my countdown, guys. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let me end the polls. Well, all right, guys, before I tell you before I discuss, so let me ask you this question. I can't stop myself. All right. How many of y'all, how many of y'all found it easier to solve this question with the help of the understanding of what we discussed? So I've got 18% of you who've marked C so far. 3% for B, 71% of you have marked D. So I'm asking, and 6% have marked E. So let me ask my question again. How many of y'all benefited from the discussion for this question? Oh my God, thank you. So they cannot refer to humans as Pallav. Yes. Why not Pallav? Why can they not refer to humans? See, the word human, thank you, Shudipto, Nitish. Very good, Nitish. Nitish says human, the word human is an adjective. When you say human action, you are not using the word human as a noun. You are saying a type of action. Now, I cannot use they, which is a pronoun, to refer to an adjective. This is again something that we teach you very specifically in our course in a very simple manner. So I hope, Rajdeep, that clears your doubt. Okay, fine. Let me discuss this. So again, this was one of our own questions, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Majority of you have got it right. The only thing is to see is where did some of you go wrong. All right, some of you marked C and E as the answer as well. So let me just quickly dissect and bisect this for you. And then we have another beautiful question. Okay, history of sorghums. I don't know what is sorghum. I do know what is history. So I tell myself, okay, this is a prepositional phrase for the history of something. All right, let's see. From its original domesticated state to today's domesticated cereal. Okay, so now I have this long prepositional phrase. It starts with a preposition from. Okay, now my question is, what is it modifying? Its original. Now this is a pronoun here. I mean, logically speaking, grammatically speaking, I can use its for history. I can use its for whatever this thing sorghum is. But when I read the rest of the sentence, it is clear to me that its original domesticated state to today's domesticated cereal, this sorghum is the cereal very clearly. It was domesticated in the past and it's still grown today as a cereal. Clearly, therefore, this its refers to sorghum. So we are talking about the history of a cereal called sorghum. And this prepositional phrase from is telling me what is the extent of history we are looking at. We are talking about which time frame? We are talking about the past till the present. Okay, past till the present. The moment I have this, I know I should have a present perfect somewhere. Anyways, so the history of sorghum, I still don't have a verb for it, was found to be heavily influenced by human action. Was found to be heavily influenced. Now was found is the verb for my subject history here. Okay, sorghum cannot be the subject. It's a noun in a prepositional phrase. Okay, so the subject is history. So the history was found to be history singular, was found singular, subject verb agrees. So far no issue. But the only issue is if I'm talking about a certain history which is still now, then this was is incorrect. Okay, if I'm talking about the history as it is now as well, started in the past, still now, continuing to the present, then I should have has been found. Okay, the history has been found to be heavily influenced by human action. And, okay, comma plus ing means I'm now going to begin another independent clause. If they continue, now I stop here and I ask myself, this they stands for who? Okay, now do I have any who? So do I have any, what nouns do I have? I have the noun action, but they cannot refer to the action. The action cannot continue to treat the plant. The word human, as I've already explained, is an adjective or modifier for action. So they cannot refer to human. All right. Now this they has to refer to humans, not human action. So I'm going to look out for that. So if humans continue to treat plant as they currently do, okay. So now this is an if conditional. I will check my verbs here. Continue is simple present. As they currently do is also simple present. then whatever will be there in the then clause should be either in simple present or in simple future. The degradation of the crop might just continue. All right. So this is also in the probable future. All right. And this part is fine. So the intended meaning is the history of sorghum has been found to be heavily influenced by human action. This influence has been present from the crop's past state of domestication to its current state as a domesticated cereal. If the farmers, humans, whatever people continue to treat the crop as they do at present, then the degradation of the crop might go on taking place. That's the meaning. Are you all clear with this, guys? I'm going to bring up another question very, very quickly now because we're nearing the end. Yes, guys, are you clear with this explanation? Should we move ahead? Any questions on this? Or okay, everybody's clear with this, so let me quickly move on. Yeah. So A is incorrect. As I said, the tense is incorrect. It should be has been found. Rest of it, the they is incorrect. Noun pronoun pair do not. One of the golden rules that we teach you guys, okay, is that you should always look out for the noun pronoun pairing in terms of logic, in terms of number. Same thing we ask you to do for any subject verb pair. B uses the right verb has been found to be heavily influenced by human action. And if they continued, now here they again would be referring to humans. I think in the correct options I have used farmers, right? Give me a moment. I think that should be a 1 minute, guys. Yeah, it should be farmers here. So let me just use it. I think I might have forgotten to change it there. Yeah. So this they should be farmers. Now let's see if this is farmers. Is it correct or not? So has been found is correct. They has been corrected. Continued. Now if they continued, the simple past is used for hypothetical cases, guys. Okay. And are we talking about hypothetical cases? No, we are talking about something that can happen. If they continue to treat the plant as they currently do, continued means in the past, okay, the crop might just continue unabated is incorrect. Whenever we use the conditional, okay, simple past is to be used in hypothetical cases. And in that case, the then clause should also be using might, would continue unabated. But we don't have that. So B is incorrect because of this continued. It should not be in the simple past. We're not talking about a hypothetical case. We're talking about a future probability as stated by the non-underlined portion. Therefore, B is incorrect. C, has found. Now there is a change here. And as I told you earlier, notice changes, guys. A lot of you have marked C. 18% of you marked C. All right. The history is the subject. Has found, verb. Okay. Has found, present perfect, the subject and verb. So per our golden rules framework, this is what we teach at GMAT Viz, so that you can easily remember what to check for. You can have a mental checklist. We tell you every time you see a subject and verb, what you need to see is, do they establish a pair? Do they agree in number? And the third thing which nobody teaches you is, do they agree in logic? Now, what does that mean? Is it logical to say the history has found? Has the history found something? Yes, guys, has the history found something? Has and has been, I'm going to explain, Sudipta, just give me a moment. All right, I'm going to show you that. But is this clear to you guys? Can the history has found something? Let me ask you the poll. I think the poll did not start. Yeah. Can we say the history has found to be influenced? Has the history found something? You're saying yes, all of you? No, I think my question is wrong. Guys, is it correct to say in this context the history has found something? No. So logically, the history has found is incorrect. The history has found means the history has performed the action of finding. So Shudipto, is it clear? Shudipto or Shudipta, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. All right. The subject is history. Now, if I say the history has found, it's like saying the country has found a solution. So the country is the doer of the action. Okay. But if I say the country has been found or the paper has been found by somebody, it means somebody else performed that action. So similarly here, the history has not found something. People have found something about history. All right. Great. So that part is clear and done with. So here, as I was saying, the subject verb do not agree logically. So the golden rules framework really help you to remember what questions to ask. And we have the golden rules framework for noun pronoun pair and modifier and modified entity pair as well. So here, one of the errors that we have here is this. If farmers continue to, this is fine. This is fine. Okay, rest of it is fine, but C is incorrect because of that has found. D is correct, as 71% of you have marked this, and I'm so happy. D, we are saying the history. Sorry, guys, this is a little shaky at times. Okay, so our subject is the history has been found. Okay, subject verb agrees, tense agrees to be heavily influenced by human action. And if farmers continue to treat their plant as they currently do, the degradation of the crop might continue. Perfect. Good. E. Now, E, honestly speaking, is fine in terms of everything. But when do we use simple past, guys? Sorry, simple present. Simple present is used for something that is always in the present tense. So when we say the history is found to be, it does not denote this thing, this information, past till the present. When you just use is found, it does not tell you the extent from when till when. That information is lost. Okay, it simply means it is found at present. At present, it is like this. Whether it was something else in the past, we don't know. All right, or whether it changed in the past, we don't know. Therefore, E is incorrect. Hey guys, any questions thereof? Welcome, Shudipto. Any questions you have? Otherwise, I'm going to bring up the last question of the session, guys. I hope you have been enjoying yourself as much as I have been enjoying myself. So Siddharth is option A ever the answer. Siddharth, in 20% of the GMAT SC questions, roughly 20%, A is the correct answer. Which is why it's very, 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 very important to keep A unless and until you found a reason to eliminate it. So Sharanga is saying option. Sharanga, your no is for Siddharth's answer question, or is it no for something else? I have no idea. So I don't think, okay, Sharanga is answering as in no questions are there. Thank you, Sharanga. All right, guys. So I'll bring up the last question. Okay, so one of the things that we again tell you at GMAT Viz is in the process that always spend maximum time on the original sentence. Go through it thoroughly. You would have seen me reading each and every word, chewing on every word so that nothing escapes my notice. All right. And then when I'm looking at the choices and putting it back into the frame and seeing, if I don't find anything wrong with A, I'm going to keep A. Unless and until I do notice some change in the answer choices and I believe that A is not correct. All right, guys, here comes the last question. And hang on to this. I'm going to share the PDF with you at the end of the session, just after this question. All right. Once again, let me remind you, the series will continue every weekend. Every weekend, we will have webinars on Saturday and Sunday, 7 p.m. IST and 1:30 p.m. GMT. All right. The webinars will cover all the verbal topics, all the 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now, in this question, I'm going to show you how you can plot the various events on your timeline. All right. So stay with me for that. I can still see the polls moving, but you know what? I'm really happy to see that. Okay, I'm happy for some reason. Yeah, Rajdeep, it's a tricky one. Yes, but you know, I'm going to teach you how to make sure that you don't fall in that. You don't fall in that trap, even though there's a sneaky trick going around there. GMAT loves to put those traps for students. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll. I think now it's stabilized. Well, 18% of you went with A, 15% with B, 39% with C, 12% of you chose D, 15% of you chose E. Okay, so let's quickly move to our analysis state. If you have any questions right now, please hold on to it, all right? Because I won't be able to answer your questions right now. Okay, here it is. Sorry, I don't know, something must have gone wrong with the animation. The conflict faded from popular memory. So right away, I have a subject, conflict, and I have a verb in the simple past tense, faded. So I'm just filing that away for filing away that information in my mind that we're talking about a simple past event. Let's see. The conflict faded, some conflict faded from popular memory, all right? Within 15 years of the end of the US-Mexico war. Now here, one thing that I'm confused about is this conflict the same as the US-Mexico war? All right. Ideally, when we use the definite article the for something, we usually use it after we've introduced the noun. Like we say first, I have bought an apple, the apple is red. Okay, we don't say the apple, I have bought the apple, an apple is red. Or I don't say I have bought the apple is red, something like that. So here I'm a little confused about that, which conflict and which US-Mexico war. But if I were to assume so far that we are talking about the conflict faded from popular memory within 15 years of the end of the US-Mexico war, I'm asking myself, okay, is the verb faded in the right tense? Because I have some time marker here, but I'm not very sure what happened when. So I'm going to draw the timeline, okay? Here's the timeline. Watch. So say this is the timeline, okay? This here is a timeline. Now, something happened within 15 years of the end of US-Mexico war. So the US-Mexico war, let's say, ended. Okay. And within, so this, let's say this ended in 1900. Okay. And this is 1915. So within means within this. All right. The conflict, if I'm assuming that the conflict is the US-Mexico war, then the memory of this war faded. Did it fade at the same time the 15 years ended? So it's like saying this is one event, okay? Ending of 15 years is one event. Okay, this ended afterwards, right? When I say I will be back within an hour, it means even before the hour is over, right? So before 15 years is over, before that the memory faded. So I have to set the sequence. Therefore, the memory faded had happened here. Okay, the event one in this case would be had faded and not faded. Is this clear, guys? I want all of you to take a good long look at this. Rajdeep, Siddharth, Sharang, Sudipto, Chaima, Gustavo, Julia, Pranjal, Nitish, Sudeep, Pallav, Nasim, Pooja, Kelsey, Sharanga, Sarah, Kaushambi, John. I hope all of you, if I've taken all your names, hopefully. Is this clear to you? Is the timeline clear to you, guys? So, Pranjal, why 1915 is an event? Because you're talking about ending. Okay, you have questions like by 1920. You will see lots of GMAT SC questions which say by 1920 something had happened. So when we say by 1920, it means 1920 is signifying the ending of one time period and the other one happened before that time period. All right, guys. So you can use, if you're confused about your events, draw a timeline. Place it like this, place it logically. Don't think about rules right away and you will get it right. Yeah, I'm going to display the whole sentence, Rajdeep. Just give me a moment. I did not want to confuse you. All right. Okay. So within means even before. So think about it like this. Remember what we spoke about within. Whenever you see within, we should use the present perfect, right? Now in this case, the within is with reference to the past. So we will use past perfect for within. Even before 1915 ended, something happened. That is what I want to show. Okay. So I'm going to go. So here it is. I know straight away that it should be the conflict had faded even before the 15 years ended of the end of US-Mexico war. But it has not disappeared. So the it refers to conflict. It has not disappeared. Again, the from popular memory is in ellipsis. We don't repeat the same word. So it is understood that the conflict had faded from popular memory, but the conflict has not disappeared from popular memory. Now I'm asking, has not disappeared is present perfect. So suddenly talking about the past, I'm coming to the present. So the memory did not disappear after this, right? So did not disappear after 1520. Okay, but still in the past. Why still in the past? Why still in the past? Because of the outbreak of the US Civil War in 1861. Okay, so what I'm saying is, here is my timeline. So this year was US-Mexico war ended. All right. Then here is 15 years from here. This is had faded. And then let's say the civil war happened after that. Okay, so this did not disappear, happened here. Now we have no reason to believe that the memory is still there, because we are given a time marker here about what caused the memory to still linger in the minds. So intended meaning, if I look at it, the US-Mexico conflict ended in the past, but before 15 years had gone by, after the end of US-Mexico conflict, its memory had faded from the public memory. So the 15 years ended later, the memory ended earlier, event 1. However, its memory did not go away completely. Why? Because civil war broke out later on and acted as a reminder. Okay, this is clear now, Rajdeep? Are things clearer to you? Well, Rohan, when we are using terms like within 15 years of the end of, all right, it is not clear that it seems to imply that the end and the fading happened at the same time. So therefore, we need to specify. Otherwise, everything can be assumed. So there is a certain amount that can be assumed. There is a certain amount that cannot be assumed. It could also be that the memory faded, when the 15-year ended or after the 15-year ended. That is why we need to show that it faded before, but did not disappear after. Great, everybody's understood. So I hope you have understood how you can use the timeline. All right, use it, guys. Use it to your advantage. And this is what we teach at GMAT Viz. We use the timeline to explain the tenses to you. Okay, so A is incorrect for the specified reason. Okay, there should have been a had faded here to imply that this was event 1. Okay, the has not is not justified, since I have already been told about what caused that not disappeared. So it should have been simple past. B says has faded, which is totally out. Okay, has faded because this whole thing, The conflict has faded from popular memory, but it has not disappeared. So which conflict are we talking about? It's not clear, like A, whether this conflict is the same as the Civil War and the US-Mexico War. The whole thing is jumbled up now. So B is out. C, within 15 years of the end of US-Mexico War. Now see how US-Mexico War has been brought up first in the sequence here. And then when you say the conflict, it refers to this war. Otherwise, if you're mentioning conflict first, this is what I was trying to say, and then the Mexico War, it's not clear whether we are talking about two different things or the same conflict. So this makes things very clear. So within 15 years of the end is like saying before the end of 15 years, the conflict had faded. You will find lots of examples in OG questions. Or let's say, for example, when you say by 1920, okay, the conflict had faded. This would be the correct construction. Why? Why? Because 1920 ended later, conflict faded earlier. So far correct, but it did not disappear. So this is also fine because of the outbreak of the US, another war. Perfect. C is the correct answer. 71% of you marked this. My only concern is whether you marked it for the right reason. Shudipta, within is a time marker for a perfect tense. So when you're using within in the context of present, it should be present perfect. If you're using within in the context of the past, you should be using past perfect. That's the issue. All right. It's all about meaning. Don't look for rules. Always apply the rules with logic. So the logic here is telling you, I've shown you the time frame. If you go back to the time frame, the within is telling me what happened in the past. The whole thing happened in the past, right? The US-Mexico war thing happened before the US Civil War. That is why we are saying it did not disappear, because something else happened to irritate the memory further. Okay, so let me discuss. So C is correct. D, within 15 years of the US-Mexico war's end, this is a very awkward construction. GMAT doesn't like to use the apostrophe S for non-living or non-identity kind of things. Anyway, so within 15 years of the US-Mexico war's end, the conflict had faded is fine from popular memory, but it had not. This is incorrect. This implies the faded and had not disappeared happened at the same time. Okay, but it did not happen at the same time. It happened afterwards. So D is incorrect. Let's look at E. Has not disappeared, has faded because of the outbreak of US Civil War. It means the US Civil War took place within 15 years of the end of Mexico War. So meaning is totally gone for a toss in this case. Can you see that, guys? You're welcome. So Pranjal's specific time, we are using the simple past. It did not disappear. Yeah, let me go back to that. Okay. If we go back to C, did not disappear. Did not is simple past. This is simple past. I did not eat my food. Okay. Simple past. So I'm using simple past because I'm saying this caused this. The two things happened at the same time. So faded, Pranjal, you have to understand, for faded, fading is a duration. It's a long drawn process. It doesn't happen at a point of time. They're telling you within. So there are two things that are happening. 15 years is ending and fading is taking place. Are the two things taking place at the same time? No, right? So the time frame, specific time marker is about a particular time frame given, like, 1920, yesterday, tomorrow, afternoon. All right. So within is not exactly a specific time marker. Within is a duration. Is it clear? So guys, if you have any questions, please put in. And in the meantime, I'll just bring up a small poll and I'll share the PDF with you. Rajdeep is asking, can we eliminate some choices here using has, had? Yes, Rajdeep, once you have understood the meaning of the original sentence and you see that similar constructions have been used, definitely you should eliminate those. I have been going through the sentences again because some of the sentences, they are using different constructions. So the moment you have a different construction, you should read the whole thing again. You might have the different construction might justify something which was not correct for a different construction altogether. Last year, Pranjal, is simple past. In the last year, within the last year is perfect tenses. All right, Pranjal? Last year is simple past. But if I say in the last year or within the last year, then it becomes the perfect tenses. So Sharanga, if you register, I think if you register for the webinar, for the series, you'll be able to get the link for the missed recordings. So Rajdeep, we don't, it's a historical context, yes, but we want to place the effects of the historical context in the proper time frame. Therefore, we need to have those verb tenses. Okay, so if you have any other queries for your preparation, guys, you can ask me. In the meantime, I'll just bring up a small poll for some feedback from you. If you have any other feedback that you'd like to share, please do so. How you found the session, how you benefited, if you think something else should have been added, anything from your side, guys. Okay, and let me bring up the poll. You can ask me queries related to your preparation, anything. Okay, I have some questions here. Let me just look at it before. So the next webinar, you will get the calendar for the next webinar sessions on Saturday, Sunday once you register on that link. 1 second. So there's the poll for you guys. And let me look at the questions. All right. And I'm going to start sharing the PDF also. Yes, here comes the PDF. So I've started sharing the PDF, guys. You can download it from the panel which is next to your chat box. Okay, let me see the questions here. So Pranjal, I think that's clear. Specific time means like specific time as I was telling you, yesterday, day before yesterday, within, in, this kind of shows an inclusion of a certain other time frame. All right. Aditya, did not disappear is simple past. So the verb, the helping verb did is simple past. Therefore, you might be thinking disappear is simple present or something. Had not disappeared is past perfect. Okay. So if you want to see it on the timeline, think about it like this. Did not disappear took place after the fading, right? It faded but did not completely disappear. So had faded took place within the 15 years, but the did not disappearing took place after the 15 years because another war started. Is that clear, Aditya? Naseem, I hope you got the PDF. You're welcome, Annie. Chaima, I'm going to share the link in the chat. Hold on a second. So I'm sending it to everybody, just in case. That's the link on which all of you can register so that you get updates about this series. So Shudipto, verb tenses, I don't have, we don't have any such data, but you can expect verb tense errors to be there at least in 3 to 4 questions, at least 2 to 3 questions. The problem is the verb tense error can occur in all the questions also, but it's not like it usually does that way. So no such data exists with us. You're welcome, Pooja. Has versus has been. Okay, Shan, let me just give you a simple explanation. Okay, if I say she has a book. Okay, so she has a book tells you what she possesses at present. But if I say she has been a teacher, it says like she started being a teacher in the past and then she's still in the present. So there's a continuity. But when I say she has a book, it doesn't tell me from when she has that book. All right. You can take another example. If I say uh, she has cleaned the room. So she has cleaned the room, active voice. She has cleaned the room, finished, but the cleanliness of the room you can see now. All right. But if I say the room has been cleaned by her, so that's passive voice. So that's another way where we use has been apart from everything else. Is that clear, Shan? You're welcome, Radhakrishnan. So Radhakrishnan is asking how to start verbal prep. Is it good if I start with SC than RC? You should always start with SC, Radhakrishnan. Okay. Reason is very simple. The reason is very simple. You should start with SC because in SC you learn how to read a sentence properly. All right. In SC, it is only in SC that you learn to read a sentence properly. And that skill you will need when you are looking at your CR questions, when you're also looking at your RC questions. So how to break, how to contextualize, how to draw the intended meaning, all of that you will learn only if you are going through the SC course first. In fact, at GMAT Viz, we draw up a study plan for you, in the same manner. We start with SC, we tell you how to cover the ground there. Once you are thorough with that methodology, then we ask you to use that method in the CR stimulus reading process. And once you have understood how to draw inferences and make assumptions, we teach you how to go over to the RC questions, because a lot of RC questions are inference questions. All right. Okay. You're welcome, Sarah. You're welcome, Naseem, Shudipto, Pranjal. Okay, option C in the PDF does not have. Pranjal, I changed some of the questions. Okay, some of the options because I had made the earlier PPT had been made by a different person, so I had to change those. So if there are small changes, please adjust. Kindly adjust. Okay, Naseem, repeat the webinar sessions. Okay, so Naseem, the webinar sessions won't be repeated, but you can get the recordings always. All right. The timing will be 7 p.m. IST every Saturday, Sunday, and 1:30 p.m. GMT. So I'm so sorry if that's not matching up with you. Maybe some part of the sessions you can catch up. You're welcome, Shan, Shaima. Guys, just let me share some data with you quickly. So we don't have time for this question, but you can register on that website for a free trial version of our course. You can contact us at those numbers. Okay, you can talk to Piyush regarding the course and your preparation as well. You're welcome, Anindya, Kaushambi, Naseem. So nice to have all of you, and hope to see you guys throughout the series. We have a lot more coming up related to CR and RC. Any other questions you have? I'm still there for a couple of minutes. If you have anything else to ask, please go ahead, guys. Okay, so I hope I've answered all your queries, guys. If I've missed anything, kindly post your query again. I mean, there were so many queries, such a wonderful session, such a wonderful interaction with all of you. I think I have answered all the questions. All right, I don't see any more questions, guys. So thank you for your wonderful feedback, your ratings, and your presence. You're welcome, Shudipto. So Shudipto, is it Shudipto or is it Shudipta? I'm curious. You're welcome, Vineet. You're welcome, Gustavo. If there are small changes in the PDF, guys, kindly adjust. You know by now the corrections. I think there are only changes in the question on sorghum and I think the other one. You're welcome, Pranjal. Okay, so that is the Shudipta. Thank you. Um, I do know that in certain languages we can pronounce it as ta and to as well. So you're welcome, Lan. So many people from all over the world. I mean, this is so nice. So I hope, guys, what you've learned today. You're welcome, Maria. Maria and Maria. Okay, Maria, I guess, or Maria. All right. That's the problem with being an English teacher. So I hope you guys, what you have learned today, you're going to actually use it. And for using that, what you need to do is you need to read the sentence in a particular manner. You can only use the timeline if you're reading your sentence in the meaning-based manner. If you're not, then everything is they are just jumbled words. All right. So many times we believe we are reading a sentence with the meaning approach, but we're not doing it. So you need to master that approach. You need to take up a course which will repetitively give you solutions, which will repeatedly tell you read this sentence like this, break this sentence like this. Okay, I have not come across any course during my research which does that. They tell you to follow the meaning based approach, they don't tell you how to do it. So we at GMAT Viz, we've attempted to resolve that problem, that pain problem for the students. All right, so guys, a very good night to all of you. See you again next week. Till then, happy learning, enjoy your learning. That's the best way to learn. So a very, very warm good night to those of you for whom it is night, and have a nice day for those of you who have just begun your day. Thank you very much. I'm going to end the session now, guys. I hope all of you all have been able to download the session PDF. Thank you.